अस्सलामुअलैकुम जी। मैं एक बार फिर से फर्स्ट ईयर के स्टूडेंट्स के साथ हूँ once again with the HSSC-I. So I welcome you all in my YouTube channel exploring the concepts, and once again the topic which is actually the extension of the last topic, diversity among plants, are the chapter, and topic is angiosperms, right? So we were working on the life cycle of angiosperms. So this is so first of all, the learning objectives. I want to share my learning objectives with you. So obviously, to understanding the life cycle of angiosperms, and then the development of the female gametophyte, as we have covered with the male gametophyte, the development of the male gametophyte, and all of the related terms to the development of the female gametophyte, right? So, quick review of the last lesson. Let me check you whether you have gone through the lesson or not. So, this is what are the characteristics, features of angiosperm. So, you need to tell me the characteristics. Means this is the how you can identify an angiosperm. So, we can identify them by having the flowers in them. First of all, secondly, the seeds are enclosed. We cannot see the seeds up till until or unless we have to cut the fruit, right? Whenever we cut the fruit, we saw the seeds inside the fruit. So these two are the major characteristic features of the angiosperms, right? So then is the name the sites for the development of the male and female gametophytes. That is basically the flower where both the male and female gametophytes are going to develop. The first is the androecium. Androecium is responsible for the development of the pollen grains, and male gametophyte, and the gynoecium or the carpel is responsible for the development of the female gametophyte. So name all four walls of the flower. So there are four walls of the flower. Outermost is sepals, then petals, then stamens, and then carpels. So in their terms, so outermost would be the calyx, next to calyx is corolla, next to corolla is dendroecium, and gynoecium is the innermost word. So there are four whorls in the flower. So is any kind of protection is provided to the pollen grain? If yes, then discuss the way how it is protected. So yeah, there is there yes, the pollen grains are protected by some external layers around them. And if you have gone through the lecture, so you can know that there are two membranes, exine and intine. The outermost membrane is exine, which is thick, and the innermost is intine, and both the membranes are responsible for protecting the pollen or the sperm nuclei inside the pollen grain, and they are basically the main purpose is to protect them from desiccation. And what is male gametophyte? Male gametophyte is actually a pollen grain having three nuclei inside it. The two are the sperm nuclei, and one is the pollen grain, and one is the pollen tube nucleus. Sorry, one is tube nucleus, and two are sperm nuclei. So that is what is called as male gametophyte. Which generation is dominant in angiosperms? So, sporophyte generation is dominant in angiosperms. Also, give three characteristics of dominant generation. So, the main plant body is a sporophyte, and sporophyte generation is diploid. First point. Secondly, it is a spore producing. Third, the spores are produced through meiosis, right? So these are the three major points of the dominant generation. So I'm hoping that you too have know the answers of these questions. So let's discuss the today's topic. This is angiosperms, enclosed seeded plants, and I am a development of the female gametophyte. So first of all, ovules. So let's start with the ovule. Let me show you a flower. Look at this flower. This flower is having the innermost part of the plant, that what is called as gynoecium or carpel or pistil. This is pistil. The outermost part, the topmost part of the pistil is called as stigma. Then this long elongated part is style, and then the basal broad part is ovary, right? And ovary contains the ovules, right? And ovules have megasporocyte, means megaspore mother cell, which is diploid, which is responsible for having meiosis in them. So this is one ovule, right? This is ovary. This is the pink colored is ovary wall, and that in the blue structure is the overall. It is called as the ovule. It has an opening called the micropyle, and it has megasporocyte. Megasporocyte is a diploid cell, and it is it is also called as megaspore mother cell. And before fertilization it is filled with some other type of the chemicals or the cells we will discuss later. So ovule is an egg shaped structure. You can see that ovule is an egg shaped structure attached to some inside of the ovary, and it may have this is the ovary, overall ovary, and ovary may contain, this is the diagram showing you one ovule inside it. Okay, so but this is the flower having many ovules inside it. So every ovule has this kind of structure. So opening is called as micropyle, and micropyle, you in the gram seed you can observe it at the pointed end of the seed. There is an opening. It's called as micropyle. That is the part from where pollen tube get entered, and that is the part from where water has entered when you have sown some seed. Acha. This is how megagametophyte is going to develop, right? This is megasporocyte or megaspore mother cell. It is 2N. Inside the ovule, here we have, this is ovule. Ovule has only one cell, right? This is megasporocyte or megaspore mother cell. Please be attentive, everyone. Then it has to go through meiosis. Meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. After completing its meiosis 2, four, obviously you all know the result of the meiosis are four haploid cells. So here we have formed four haploid cells, right? But what happened to the in case of female gametophyte, interestingly, both plants and animals, they have left with only one functional megaspore among all four, right? Only one have going to sorry only one will survive. Rest of the three will disintegrate, degenerate. So only one will be considered as the functional. This is one megaspore among all of the four, right? It will survive, only one will survive. Haploid, obviously, as it has gone through the meiosis, right? So this is one megaspore, megaspore on mitosis, right? We are going to develop megagametophyte. This is through mitosis, one first mitosis, second mitosis. This megaspore is going to produce after mitosis two nuclei, then it has four nuclei. Then when it is going to develop into after going through the third mitosis, it will have eight megaspores inside each ovule, right? So eight megaspores will produce, but all of these are produced through mitosis. I already have discussed this thing that in case of plants, the gametes are produced through mitosis, right? The gametes are produced through mitosis. So meiosis will result in the production of megaspore, and then megaspore will go on through three mitosis, three times mitosis. One will be two. After the division of two, it will form four, and all four have gone through mitosis and will produce eight megaspores inside each ovule. This collectively called as the embryo sac, right? This is embryo sac or megagametophyte. This is called as megagametophyte that contains eight haploid nuclei inside it, and they're also called as embryo sac. So this is how it will develop. This diagram is showing you the development of megagametophyte. Okay, then its megagametophyte is basically certain cells that are megasporocyte of ovule undergo meiosis to produce four haploid cells. Only one survives. Others degenerate. Surviving cell is megaspore, which means large spore. Megaspore nucleus divides by mitosis to produce two haploid nuclei, which further divide to form eight haploid nuclei because it has to go through the three mitosis. Now, this is the embryo sac or megagametophyte. You can see in this diagram we are going to show you that is the region from where the micropyle is situated. The part of the ovule that have micropyle, obviously the egg cell would be at that end. Okay, the opposite to that would be resided by three antipodal cells. These antipodal cells will degenerate, and then the egg cell are surrounded by the synergids. They too are going to disintegrate. But the central two nuclei, they will fuse to form fusion nucleus, right? We will discuss later why the purpose of this fusion. At the center of the ovule is microscopic embryo sac having all these eight nuclei, right? Within the ovule, there are eight nuclei now. Wall formation takes place and these nuclei is converted into cells, and then all eight nuclei will have developed the walls and becoming the cells. Cells of embryo sac are antipodal. These are the antipodal cells. These are the synergids, and this is egg cell, and this is the polar nuclei. On their fusion, they will form the fusion nuclei. And embryo sac with all these cells is female or male gametophyte, right? Female gametophyte or male gametophyte. This is female gametophyte, male gametophyte, or embryo sac. It has eight cells inside it. Three are antipodals, two are synergids, one egg cell, and two polar nuclei. Or you can call it as the fusion nucleus. Okay, now then is cells of megametophyte. Cells of megametophyte, three antipodal cells. I've shown you the three antipodal cells which are opposite to the micropyle, right? And these three antipodal cells are opposite to the micropyle with no function, okay? Sooner or later they will disintegrate. And then two synergids, and they are helpful in guiding the pollen tube, right? And two polar nuclei in the center combine to form a single fusion nucleus. These two cells are called as the polar nuclei. They will fuse to each other and will form the fusion nucleus. These yellowish colored are of antipodal, they will disintegrate. These two are the synergids. These synergids are basically are helpful in guiding the sperms to reach to the egg cell. This is a pod of a pea, and I've shown you this seed. Inside each seed, we can see all these things, right? Okay. Egg one and present between synergies. I've already told you. Fertilization. Now, the process of fertilization in plants. This is anther. You all know the anther now. Anther has the pollen grains. Pollens are produced. They are basically are also called as the microspores. And these microspores, by the way, have gone through some processes and will develop, the male gametophytes, right? These male gametophytes, when fall on the stigma, right? Stigma has some chemicals to stick it and provide the nourishment to it, and it will grow further. Then the egg embryo will burst, and embryo, not embryo, the male gametophyte, and pollen tube will form, right? Pollen tube, it will rupture the wall, its wall, and pollen tube will develop or enter inside the ovule, inside the stigma and style. And then style, after going through the style, it will enter into the ovule. Look at this diagram. This part of the diagram I'm showing you like this. This is the pollen tube. Pollen tube is entering the through the micropyle inside the pollen embryo sac. Embryo sac have all eight cells, you can see, right? These two fusion nuclei, they will polar nuclei, they will fuse to form the fusion nuclei. If you can recall, there were two sperm nuclei in the pollen tube, right? One is going to fuse with the with the egg cell and form the zygote, and the other sperm nuclei will fuse with the polar nuclei or the fusion nucleus, right? So this is how the zygote and the fusion nucleus will form. The fusion nucleus is basically after making a bond with the sperm nuclei, it will make an endosperm nucleus, right? So this is how the fertilization will take place. Basically, two fertilization will take place, so that's why it is called as double fertilization. And finally, this zygote will develop into the embryo. So I will discuss later about this thing. Now look at this diagram. This is the pollen tube. Pollen tube has two sperm nuclei. One sperm nuclei is developed. One sperm nucleus will drop into the egg, and the other will drop inside the embryo sac. These two are the polar nuclei. These three will fuse to form endosperm nuclei, and these two nuclei will fuse to form zygote. So, as you see, there are two fertilizations, right? There are two fertilizations will take place. One this, and the other is the egg and sperm. So double fertilization, look at this diagram. Now this is antipodal, polar, synergies, and egg cell. Pollen tube has two sperm nuclei. These two sperm nuclei, one is given to the egg, the other is given to the polar nuclei. This is fusion nucleus and sperm, and collectively they are called as endosperm. And this is a triploid structure, right? And this is the zygote, which is a diploid structure. This is what is called as the double fertilization. Now, the text-related forces sperm fertilizes with the egg, and the zygote develops into embryonic plant. The second sperm moves to the center and unites with the fusion nucleus to form triploid endosperm cell. Union of one sperm with egg, the other with the fusion nucleus is called double fertilization. So we already have discussed this thing. Formation of seed now. This is the zygote and then embryo sac. Overall, it is embryo sac. It contains the zygote and the endosperm nucleus, right? So later on, they will embryo will develop, and this is the embryo. This is the endosperm, the mature, right? Mature embryo, mature endosperm, and embryo has the shoot apex, the root apex, right? And this the yellowish structure is endosperm, and the overall coverings are the seed covering, the seed cords. These are the cotyledons as well. Okay. Now the formation of seeds and endosperms. Now look at this seed. It's maize corn seed, and in corn seed you can see this structure is showing you the embryo, and this is endosperm, and these are the seed codes, right? So endosperm is present now in all kinds of seeds of the angiosperms. After fertilization, fusion nucleus develop into triploid endosperm, and endosperm divides and larges are used as a store of food for young embryo. As seed is, whenever it got the favorable conditions, when you are going to sow it, then it will use the endosperm until unless it has developed its own green part of the plant body for its fertilization. Now this is that blue colored structure is embryo, and that white colored structure is basically the endosperm. This is the stored food is basically in the form of fats. So now the formation of seed, once again the parts of the seed now. Zygote develops into embryo, and embryo has following parts. One or two cotyledons. These two are the cotyledons that contains the endosperm. Epicotyle is the part of the, the part of the embryo through which shoot is going to produce. Hypocotyle is the part which is going to develop the root. And hypocotyle, epicotyle, right? This is hypocotyle. Look, starting from this part, radicle is the part of the seed which is going to develop into roots. Plumule is the part of the seed which is going to develop into shoot. So the hypocotyle, they will develop into roots. The elongation of the hypocotyle, and this is the elongation of the hypocotyle, and it will going downward for the development of the roots. And these are the cotyledons, and the shoot is developed upward, and that is what epicotyle, right? Epicotyle is, it is present between the cotyledon and the plumule, and hypocotyle is present between the cotyledon and the roots or radicle, right? Once again, I'm going to repeat: epicotyle is present between the cotyledons and the plumule, and hypocotyle is present between the cotyledon and the radicle, right? So now formation of the seed. Now look at this. I already have told you about all this, but one thing which is important about this diagram, you can see the embryo is, it has both the sperm and the egg nuclei, and it is like this. Integuments is feminine, and endosperm one to like this, right? This is very important about this. And it has means endosperm has the sperm part, male part, or embryo has the male part. This is unfertilized ovule, developing seed, and mature seed. This is the development of the embryo inside the seed coat. Okay. So then is the fruit formation. Last part is fruit formation. Ovule will form seed. You can see in this diagram, this is the ovary. Ovary contains the ovules in them, and this ovary, after fertilization, ovary wall will produce some hormones for converting the ovary into the fruit. The ripened ovary is called as fruit, right? The ripened ovary is called fruit, and the fertilized ovule is called the seed. You can see the seed inside the fruit. This is all the pulp produced by the ovary wall, and ovary wall enlarges and ripens to become fruit. Let's recap the whole of the topic. This is anther meiosis. Meiosis will produce microspores. Microspore will develop into the male gametophyte. Through pollination, these microspores will, these male gametophyte will reach to the stigma, and on stigma, now look at this as well. Ovule contains the megasporocyte. On meiosis, only one megaspore will retain, and it will convert into the megametophyte that contains the eight that have the specific arrangement inside it. Two and three antipodals, two synergies, and two polar nuclei. And this is the pollen nucleus, which is responsible for the development of the pollen tube. And these two are the sperm nuclei. They will reach up to the egg and fusion like this. When they have reached inside the embryo sac, two fertilizations will take place. Double fertilization will take place. Zygote and endosperm development will take place. And this endosperm will develop into the nutritive white region. Nutritive tissue means the endosperm tissue, and that what is the embryo. The mitosis of the zygote will develop, will produce the embryo, and developing seed dispersed via wind or animal. This is the seed which is going to disperse through animals, through winds, through human beings, and whenever it got the for the whenever it got the favorable condition, it will develop into a new sporophyte generation. This is the mature sporophyte generation, and it is the flower. So I'm hoping that you have all clear with the major points. If you have any confusion, you can write me in the comment box, and please give me the feedback for the improvement of the channel. I thank you all. Please take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.